The Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 has become a subject of intense debate in India. Introduced by the BJP-led government, the bill seeks to amend the Waqf Act of 1995. The government says the bill aims to improve the management of Waqf properties across the country. It claims the changes will increase transparency, reduce corruption, and make the system more efficient. The bill has been reviewed by a joint parliamentary committee and is expected to be presented in the Lok Sabha soon. Waqf properties are those dedicated for religious or charitable purposes under Islamic law. These properties are not owned by any individual or entity, but are held in trust for the benefit of the community. The Waqf Act of 1995 established Waqf boards at the central and state levels to oversee these properties. The boards are responsible for managing the properties, resolving disputes, and ensuring that the income generated is used for its intended purposes. The proposed amendments have sparked controversy and divided public opinion. Supporters argue that the changes are necessary to modernize the system and prevent misuse of Waqf properties. They point to instances of mismanagement and corruption, claiming that the current system is inadequate. They believe the bill will streamline the process and ensure that the properties are used for the benefit of the community. However, critics argue that the amendments are an attempt to interfere with Muslim religious affairs. They see the bill as part of a larger pattern of targeting minority communities and undermining their institutions. The debate reflects the deep divisions within Indian society and highlights the challenges of balancing religious freedom with the need for good governance. One of the most contentious provisions of the bill is the inclusion of non-Muslims in Waqf management bodies. Currently, these bodies are composed solely of Muslims. The bill proposes that non-Muslims be appointed to the Central Waqf Council and state Waqf boards. Proponents argue that this will bring greater transparency and accountability. They believe that having diverse representation will ensure fairness and prevent any potential bias in decision-making. However, opponents view this as an infringement on the religious freedom of Muslims. They argue that it goes against the principles of self-governance and sets a dangerous precedent. They fear that it could lead to the erosion of Muslim control over their religious institutions. Additionally, the bill proposes the elimination of Waqf by user, a provision that recognizes properties as Waqf based on long-term religious or charitable use, even without formal documentation. Another controversial aspect of the bill is the restriction it places on new converts to Islam. Under the proposed amendment, Muslims who have converted from other religions would be barred from creating a Waqf for a period of 5 years. Supporters of this provision argue that it is necessary to prevent fraudulent conversions solely for the purpose of creating a Waqf. They believe that this will safeguard the sanctity of the institution and prevent its misuse. However, critics argue that this provision is discriminatory and targets new converts. They say it creates an unnecessary barrier and casts doubt on the sincerity of those who choose to embrace Islam. They view it as an attempt to discourage conversions and marginalize new members of the community. The Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 has faced strong opposition from various quarters, including Muslim organizations, legal experts, and opposition political parties. They have raised concerns about its potential impact on the Muslim community and the secular fabric of India. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board, a prominent body representing Muslims in India, has vehemently opposed the bill. They argue that it is an assault on the religious freedom of Muslims and an attempt to usurp their rights over their religious institutions. The MPLB has called for nationwide protests against the bill and has urged the government to withdraw it. Along with the MPLB, other Muslim organizations, such as the Jamiat Ulama-e-Hind, have also voiced their opposition to the bill. They view it as part of a larger agenda to marginalize Muslims and erode their identity. These organizations have vowed to challenge the bill in court if it becomes law. Legal experts have also raised concerns about the constitutionality of the bill. They argue that it violates Article 26 of the Indian Constitution, which guarantees the right of religious denominations to manage their own affairs in matters of religion. They contend that the government's interference in the management of Waqf properties is a direct infringement on this fundamental right. They also point out that the bill's provisions could lead to protracted legal battles over the ownership and control of Waqf properties, further exacerbating tensions and creating uncertainty. The Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 has far-reaching implications for the Muslim community in India. Critics argue that it will weaken the community's control over its own institutions and resources. Waqf properties have traditionally played a significant role in supporting Muslim social, educational, and charitable activities. They generate income that funds mosques, madrasas, orphanages, and other community-based initiatives. Opponents of the bill fear that the government's increased control over Waqf properties could lead to a decline in funding for these vital institutions. This, they argue, would disproportionately impact the most vulnerable sections of the Muslim community, who rely on these institutions for education, healthcare, and social support. Moreover, the bill's emphasis on digitization and centralized control has raised concerns about transparency and accountability. Critics argue that the government's track record in managing religious institutions is not encouraging. They point to instances where government intervention has led to mismanagement, corruption, and a decline in the quality of services provided. They fear that the Waqf Amendment Bill 2024 could pave the way for similar problems in the management of Waqf properties.